So does the interactive group model work? Hi, I'm Louise Fouché from OTGrow, and welcome to our YouTube episode where we unpack a little bit of research that was recently done in Touws River with the More Than group. And it was a foundation or was based very much on the interactive group model. And so it's an absolute delight for me to introduce you to my other partners in crime at our nonprofit organization of More Than. So, Louise Griesel and Anri Elof, thank you so much for being willing to chat to us.
Thanks, Louise. Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for the invitation.
So, so one of my other hats is also working in the nonprofit organization of More Than. So, but before we start with the research, Andri, maybe you can just give us a little bit of just in a nutshell what More Than is and what it stands for, what we're doing in the communities.
Yeah, so Louise, we got together 3 years, 4 years ago. Yourself, Louine, and myself, and we discovered a very important why more than. And the why is because we believe every person is more than circumstances, background, culture, religion, beliefs, loss. So with more than you can do quite a lot.
Mm.
And we took the program to the communities because um, persons are living in communities, and the communities is about relationships. And
Mm.
the whole interactive model is about relationships and the possibility um, to create brave, safe spaces for people to actually um, heal
Mm.
from a certain type of mindset or attitude that they have about themselves or someone else.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, so at the end, is to put up these brave, safe spaces in communities to help people to heal and dream again, and then take innovative action and responsibility for their own lives.
Mm. I like
Yeah.
that so much, that brave, safe spaces to heal. Louise, maybe you can tell us a little bit about Touws River because that's where this research that we did, and just a little bit about why Touws River. How did we get to Touws River? And maybe if you also just want to add on how we ended up with Ukwanda, which is part of the University of Stellenbosch in terms of the research that we then ran.
Yeah. So if I can thank you, Louise, and if I can add to what Andri said, I think that was part of my whole realization. When we talk about communities, it can be different communities. I think to start off with, it can be your community you live in, your community at work, or within a relationship community, if I can add that.
Mm.
So back to how we started and why Touws River. At that stage, I was with Breeder Valley APD, which is Breeder Valley Association of and for Persons with Disabilities. And we've been rendering services within Touws River for many years. Um, and we really struggled to get our projects. We would go into the community, start with a project we really thought was necessary and address certain needs. And we struggled to find the community to buy into the project or for the participants to buy into the project and or for projects to develop and maybe scale. Um, and with a whole more than evolution, I want to call it almost,
Mm.
um, we realized, but maybe this is what we're doing wrong. Maybe we should start with the community members. And before we start with the project, first get them to realize that there's more to Touws River. So Touws River is a community where there's a lot of social ills, if I can call it like that.
Mm.
The community is known for its unemployment, and unemployment leads to other socials in. Should it be substance abuse? Should it
Mm.
be a decrease in mental health? Or yeah, so there's a lot of ills in this community, and it's almost like so Touws River forms part of the Breeder Valley municipality, It's almost like the stepchild of Breda Valley municipality. It felt left behind, and it's not that far from towns like Worcester and Rossendale and the Dorings. Just felt like the stepchild. Yeah, and it was back to the more than process to see how can we engage the community of Touws River, people living within Touws River, to realize that, you know what, we can drive our own social development programs and projects.
Mm.
Because at Breda Valley APD, it was all about social development.
Mm.
Back to Breda Valley APD, one of our long-standing partners is Ukwanda, and that is I know their name have changed a few times, but that is the Rural Health Center, like the Rural Health School for the University of Stellenbosch. And they would partner with us and send some of their students, their allied health students, to come and do some practical terms at Breda Valley APD. So when we started with the More Than Meras process and groups within Touws River, we were really excited about this process, doing it a bit differently within community development and really trying to create social cohesion or work towards social cohesion.
Mm.
And I think that's when
Mm.
chatting with a few of our colleagues at Ukwanda, and I mean, many of them are involved with research and research studies. They immediately said, "Okay, but what is this? What are you doing in Touws River?" And I think that's where we made the connection, and we, until today, very fortunate to have Ukwanda on board and throw us out of our comfort zone to do some research. Yeah, I presume we'll get to that part later on. So yeah, so it's been a mix of circumstances, and as some of my colleagues like to call it, synchronicity at that stage.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
Mm.
think maybe a step back to you, Andri, about so we've got the interactive group model that the majority of viewers on this channel know about, but the more than program. So is there, just to explain, how does the interactive group model and the more than program kind of dovetail into each other?
Yeah, so I think the whole more than Mira's process was informed also from imago relationship international theory, in terms of the marriage relationship probably is the smallest group, but the same principles apply within this model as within the interactive model,
Mm.
by creating a safe, brave space for people to actually feel safe enough um, to show up. So and that is my background. So when, um, yeah, I got involved with the interactive model from your side, it actually made sense because it's about that authentic connection between people. It's about authentic relationships. So that was just a wonderful, what is the word, synchronicity
Yeah,
of timing.
yeah.
Um, and then the other thing was for me as a theologian, it was also the way I understood um, what God wants us to do in terms of meeting people where they are as they are, without judgment, without prejudice, without stereotyping, and create those spaces so that the person on the other side of that meeting will actually experience that.
Mm.
And we see that in the groups. We see that uh, people come alive as soon as they feel worthy, um, and yeah, give themselves permission to heal.
Mm. Yeah, come alive. I just love that
Yeah,
because I think that's also what
yeah.
came out in through the research. Yeah, so maybe just to just reiterate. So with the More Than program that we set up, the foundation with the imago therapy and with the interactive group model, it was all about the interaction and the communication, the connection that people then garner and foster. And we took it on to a community level and social cohesion. But also the realization that people can't need to heal. There's a healing space needed for in our communities. Yeah, and so maybe just to say one or two things about our kind of the cohort of the More Than research, just in terms of how we got the people, and a little bit about who this research was based on, and the More Than program that ran for 4 groups in the community.
So I'm going to start, but Andre, please take over. I think to add on, and it's because of it's always great to experience 3 people coming from different professional fields, if I can say it like that. So just to add on the whole social development part. What we didn't realize is that we were busy with systems work or the systems change process by starting now for the first time in a community with what they call the primary actor and giving and basically creating a space where we can listen to what your needs are. So the recruitment of the participants for our project was done on the base of people who's been involved with APD, and we did community engagements and had meetings with the community. So it wasn't a challenge to get into the community because we had some existing projects within the community, and we knew who's the role players and the stakeholders. But it was still, how do you get a community to engage with you and to really understand, I think, the whole impact of what we want to do. So, Andre, maybe you can give some of our feedback and what we experienced.
Yes, I still remember the first meeting that we had with the role players in Touws River, which was an invitation into a meeting, and we had what is a spreekbeurt. We had an opportunity to just present what we thought would help also the process going on. And it was very well received. I remember the chairperson was very excited about just hearing the words "more than," that Touws River is more than. And then so we got them together, invited role players and a lot of people in the community to the first meeting. I think it was in September of 2020, 21. Yes, and then we explained, and at that particular instance, we enrolled more than 30 people, just pitched up from various backgrounds and organizations within the community to participate. So that was, yeah, very heartwarming actually to be welcomed in that way. And I think that was because of the work that you, Louise, and APD has been doing in the community. It's all about the trusted relationship.
Yeah, that's right. So we got a foot into the community through the APD that had been building a relationship for quite a while in a certain sense.
Yeah.
I want to just come back a little bit. So we ran 4 groups, and each group had 2 phases to it. I just want to explain to our viewers. So the first one is like a 5-day group therapy that's based on the interactive group model and imago therapy. And then the second week, or the second phase at least, is then based on more a model of creative ability where we called a creative process. And so we had the community members meet the first month once a week, and after that once a month for another 3 months. Building something, creating something, making things together to kind of consolidate what their experience of the first 5 days in group therapy. And then our question was, well, is this working? You know, should we carry on with this? And that's when Ukwanda came on board. And so we did Ukwanda came on board and they did a focus group and they had questions that they asked. And so it was a qualitative research. So maybe if we jump to some of the results, or maybe you want to say something about the experience of the research.
Yeah, so for myself, it became very clear for me very quickly that more than as a unique opportunity or unique impact in terms of opening up a space for people to, um, I don't want to use the word heal, but to be heard and be seen and to be valued. It's almost so some people would ask me, but is it a mental health sort of program? But no, all the definitions that I can come across about mental health is about working with a diagnosed person. We are in the mental health area, but it's almost early intervention and allowing people to voice where they are at and what is happening in their lives in such a way that uh, they see themselves in a new way. So that was for me personally from the research very good to see that this process is actually helping people in a very deep way in a very short space of time. Within 5 days of this process, people change and people realize things about themselves. And it's all about that authentic connection within the group. And that is, yeah, that's good to see. And that the research actually says that also.
Yeah, we'll unpack the research a little bit more.
Yeah.
Louise, you want to come in there?
No, I think I'll leave that part for when we unpack the research. Just back to the whole research process. I think Louise, you asked us about that. So I remember a moment right at the beginning when I looked at Andre and asked him, "Oh, do we need to do all this work?"
Yeah.
So that was quite challenging, meaning so I mean back to Ukwanda and all the praise for them for including us every step of the way.
Absolutely.
And they had to explain to us many, many times how to do this and no, we actually need this. But yeah, it's actually been a life-changing experience to be part of such a great research project. Yeah, just to answer you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I was going in a bit too deep too soon, probably, but that's my nature. Um, the whole thing about being not an academic, partnering with academics, made it a unique experience for myself also. So I feel very sorry for the academics. As Louise said, some of the Zoom meetings that we had afterwards, I would just shake my head and say, what was this now about? But that we actually have the opportunity to produce 3 papers, one that has been published, the second one is being approved already and being prepared for publication, and then the third one is on its way. Just says that, yeah, there's some value in this. But the collaboration between the academics and mere mortals are so amazing.
Yeah, I think there I also want to come in. I remember thinking, oh, you know, it's nice. We'll partner with the academics with Ukwanda and they'll do it, and we'll just like be. And like you said, Louise, it's like, what? This is
Yeah.
we've got to do this. Yeah, I remember that as well. Anyway, let's unpack a little bit the research because I think there's some incredible depth in the answers that we got, and I think one of the things that stood out for me is not just because often people say, yeah, but it's a hype. It's 5 days, everybody's got a hype, everybody feels great, and then afterwards nothing happens. And what even took the winds out of my sails is that some of these focus groups we had people started, I think, in October, and the focus group was held the next July. So that's what about 9 months, and people were still saying how the changes was in their life. So for
Mm,
me, one of the biggest wows was the sustainability of the
mm.
changes that were made. That really stood out for me. But let's have a look. So I just picked out two or three of the themes that I thought we can unpack a little bit more that came directly out of the findings. And the one was through connection, uh, people feel worthy of healing and belonging. That was
Mm.
one of the themes that came out, that through the connection in the group members and the community members felt that they were worthy of healing and belonging. Anybody want to say something about that?
Yeah, no, that is so beautiful. I'm reminded of Imago's Hava Hendricks also said that we get hurt in relationships, but we can be healed in relationships.
Yeah.
And just by creating these safe spaces, uh, allow people to feel valued. Um, and then as the healing process starts. So
Mm.
it emphasizes quite a lot of people writing about this topic. I'm thinking of Gabo Matai and Brené Brown in terms of our vulnerability, leadership through vulnerability, that we, yeah, be authentic, yeah, where you are, and that allows someone else also to say, but yeah, I struggle also, and connect on a deeper level. Uh, yeah, that emphasizes for me what authentic connection is all about.
Yeah, I think for me, what opened my eyes in this point was the being worthy to heal and
Mm,
belong. And I think
mm,
sometimes maybe as a healthcare professional, we're so quick to have people, facilitate them on a healing journey that we almost forget that it's almost a preamble. If I don't think or feel worthy, if I don't realize I'm more than my mental illness or my problems or the mistakes I made in the past, it's almost that worthiness not being able to open themselves up to what
yeah,
actually is being offered.
yeah.
So for me, that was an absolute wow.
Mm, mm.
It,
I think from my side and just for the viewers' sake, so I wasn't part of the facilitation of the groups. I formed no part of it. So the first I saw was the feedback from the participants after the focus groups. And having been part of a more than process and having been part of the interactive group, I've got a friend who always tells me that, oh no, you love this hoo-ha things. You always get excited about that. But being part of the group and then seeing other people from different walks of life, from a different community, from a different context, experiencing the same emotion that I've experienced being part of the group, that for me was amazing.
mm,
Yeah.
Yeah. Then that
yeah.
comes to the social cohesion, which I would like
Mm.
us to talk about a little bit later on, if you don't mind. Did you want to come in here, Andri?
No, not just about the thing. We developed the whole process and everything, and I, later I came across Gabo Matthijs' work, and it just struck me, as you said, that he wrote and says, people first must feel worthy to give themselves permission to heal. And that was such a um, statement or confirmation of the work that we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost out of two corners, we heard the same
Yeah,
message from our
yeah.
community members in the focus group, and then this work of Gabo Mate.
Gabo Mate,
That's
yes.
right, and how it
Yeah,
actually comes to the same thing.
yeah.
The second one was sharing pain, which I think that's a little bit what you touched on, or not necessarily pain, but just the fact that other people are experiencing the same emotion as you. Um, and then one of the themes that came out for the community members was about sharing pain, how that was so incredibly profound and healing, brought healing for them.
Mm. Yeah, it was almost amazing to witness that people want to share their stories, even from some groups from the first day, but especially the second, where we do the activity in terms of the woundedness and woundedness stories.
Mm.
Um, but people want to share, and the activity where they do share always makes them feel uh, privileged to also witness other stories,
Yeah,
and that made them feel they belong. And we have shared pain, although my pain is my pain and yours is yours. It's
yeah.
not to compare, but it is to find strength through other people's stories also, without judgment.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember one of the community members said she shared things there that she hadn't shared in her whole lifetime of, was
Yes.
it 54 years? She had
Yeah.
never shared this pain with anybody. And that was just so incredibly profound, the
Yeah.
impact that it had on her. And I want to come in there again, under that you're saying people want to share. I think sometimes people think, oh, I've got to go to a group and I'm going to have to say things about myself. But our experience is exactly
Mm.
the opposite, that community
Mm.
members want a place where they're able to share their pain. And I
Yeah.
sometimes wonder if it's people want you to be okay, and there's no place that is welcome, that welcomes your pain and allows you to just sit with it for a while.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Where do we find safe space, safe, graceful spaces?
Hmm. Yeah.
Where do we find that? Uh, and for me, it's also almost like people are living. Doesn't matter which context or background. There's this mask and this way of portraying myself, but the moment that you allow space for yourself to see yourself, then as if the dam will breaks, and then
Hmm.
um, and I think that's what we created in these groups. Yeah, the safe space for people just to voice.
Yeah. And I think you said it, to be seen and to be heard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
The other one that was becoming a family. Yeah, maybe here,
Mm.
Louine, just you can come in and share a little bit about the idea of becoming a family, but how our community members actually took that further into places after More Than's program came to an end.
Mm.
Yeah, I think especially with the family and back to what I said right at the beginning, that community being, you've got various types of communities, because I remember many of them saying, I took this process and I took it to my own family and my family at home, and the positive impact of how I realize now I'm more than, say, for instance, this quarrel or this situation, and the impact on people's families at home. Um, and again, from a social development or social work perspective, that's amazing. Going through this process and being able to own the process and take it back to your own setting or your own community, would it be the workplace or your family setting? And I know there was a lot of members who also said, but the whole town needs more than. They need to do more than. So yeah, so I think that whole, and even within the groups, the whole we are family aspect. I never I we passed each other on the street, and we never had
Mm.
something to say to each other. And now we went through this whole more
Mm.
than process, and we're closer, and we feel, oh, you're now part of my more than family.
Mm.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, just for the viewers, I mean, that's cohesion almost at its best. And Yalom
Mm.
says that he talks it about the restructuring of the primary family, how the woundings happened in our families, and that the healing happens in groups, which is basically a simulated family, and that's why
Mm.
it's so powerful. And then when the healing happens in the simulated family, then we can take it back into communities and our own families. And that's really what we heard straight from our community members, what they experienced. Mm.
Mm,
We are now busy with a program, not Touws River, but we ECD practitioners automatically refer to them as family
mm.
due to the
And
process.
sisterhood.
Yeah,
Mm,
we are
Sisterhood.
sisterhood now.
That's right.
So the language is around family when they experienced the modern process.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
that's beautiful, and it's spontaneous. It
It's
happens because they
spontaneous.
feel that
Yeah,
kind of belonging to a family.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, sure. And then the last one, maybe, I know there was lots of others, but I think the one that's really significant is motivated to change. Because I think there's so many people that are saying, we're running healing programs, we're running programs in our mental health clinics and things like that, but it's almost like we can't get people motivated to do the actual change or to drive lifestyle changes in their own lives. And here was actually something that was a theme that came out. So I'd like
Mm.
us to stop here a little bit and just, talk about that motivated to change, because I think that is very powerful.
mm,
Yeah, maybe if I always I said that it's very difficult to measure that in some cases because the change is in the person, and then people would come back to the group the next day and said, but my children said I am behaving in a different way. People in my household is picking up that I don't react the same way as I did. And then they ask me, what is happening? Where are you going to every day? So it's very personal, I think those changes without naming it as drive or as innovation action steps.
Mm.
It's almost automatic, the change. But then there's also other, maybe Louis, you can also add to that, other big changes that people make. I remember one of the first participants in one of the first group decided after that she's going back to college and she's going to finish her studies.
Mm.
mm.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. If I can add to what you're saying, Andre, I think it's how do we measure it? I think
Mm.
it's being patient about it.
Mm.
Mm.
And you can elaborate on one of the participants who now had, I mean, already at the start of the program, wanting a own home, and now 2, 3 years along the line, actually having their own home,
Mm.
changing within to make that big life change. Um, so change is not necessarily quick and immediate.
Mm.
It's being patient about the process of change. I think if I can add to that.
Mm.
Mm. Yeah, I think
Mm.
also when we started the program, so more than is about healing, dreaming, innovating, we thought that the innovating was going to be kind of entrepreneurship, and I think
Mm.
that's kind of where we were headed. But the changes that happened wasn't that. The changes was in some ways, I think, in terms of social cohesion and in terms of their own mental health, was different
Mm.
changes. It was like moving out of my mother's home, going to
Mm.
find a job. I'm thinking of some of our other community members, which is not innovate. There's no innovation, but these
Mm.
are kind of big um, changes that were made in their own lives. It's almost like that sense of agency or taking the power back for themselves.
Yeah, it's almost that we thought entrepreneurship is in terms of economics
Yeah.
and job creation, but this process helped to actually enlarge the definition of entrepreneurship. It's about taking responsibility for my relationships in my house. One of the participants said, um, "I'm not going to be the doormat anymore." The floor, what? Yeah, it was
Yeah.
a doormat, né? You
Yeah.
remember? And she that day she decided this is not my life.
Yeah.
And I went back and told the people in the house, no, no, you can make food. You can prepare the dinner. And she came back the next day looking differently. Her behavior is different in the group.
Yeah.
People physically changed. You can see that. Not all of them, but yeah. So, and that is the beauty. Entrepreneurship, it's probably needs a redefining in terms of our process.
um,
Yeah.
before we end off, I'd like to do just touch one last bit on social cohesion, because I think there's a lot of talk, and we know from my opinion, I think South Africa just really needs more spaces for the intention of building up social cohesion. I think people are living in silos in a lot of communities. And even when we ran the social cohesion group here in Tilbach, in my community, it was said we've actually got 3 different communities living in Tilbach because there is no kind of this holding together. So yeah, just maybe your thoughts in terms of social cohesion. You can either link it to Touws River or not. Yeah, and the need for it.
I think from my side, again, it's the almost like the confirmation that communities have changed. And we need to look at social cohesion maybe a bit differently. As some of these participants said, I pass the people in the street and we don't talk to each other. And back to the more than group providing you a new family to better drive social cohesion. So you might not be in the same church and your children might not go to the same school, but there's that one golden thread that you might share. And immediately that then you can build that relationship. So I mean, social cohesion is all about the relationship and trust relationships. So I think, yeah, I think there's stages, and we've touched on this now. There's stages to eventually come to a community that is very cohesive. But it's building blocks getting there. And first, you need to feel you're worthy to enter the more than family and then work towards social cohesion. And I think also social cohesion we might call it social cohesion. It might be something different or a different word or a different setting for someone else in some of these communities. So yeah, I think there's definitely, I mean, we look at towns they have on in the media, towns that really worked hard. I think Lotto Land drove a lot of this, and you think, oh, will we ever get to that point? But I'm sure it was also a very patient process to was ready for it. And I do believe especially within Touws River, that is something that we can, reach someday. Yeah, put it in the limelight and saying Touws River is a town all about social cohesion.
And
Yeah, no.
go for it, Andre.
No. So yeah, also for me, social cohesion, you know that we say that every town, every community has the answers for that community. So Touws River has all the answers for Touws River. But social cohesion, for me, more than is a movement. I think we've said that also about a year or 2 or 3 ago. It's about a movement. It's not an NGO. We need new language. we cannot, because language creates barriers between people and within a community. In our street, we thought that people talk about the dronkrappers, the people that look for food in the bins. So the language that we use are creating stereotypical groups of people. And in South Africa today, with everything that's going on, it seems like, now that's very personal, but it seems like we are more separate and more divided than yeah, previously probably. But so we need more than and groups like this to help us to cross the stereotypical barriers,
Yeah.
prejudice, to see more than what we see. And to get to know people on a deeper level. Because that is happening in 5 days. From a Monday to a Friday, people lose color, they lose their
Age.
prejudice about, absolutely.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of these barriers between people that just, and then that creates empathy and compassion for someone else. And that's what we need.
Yeah, maybe to tie it beautifully back to what you were saying, Louise, just the fact that somebody else so different than me can experience the same emotion, all of a sudden that person really becomes a person. It's all those barriers kind of just fall away, and it's two people connecting, irrespective of, what we think about different things, or our views, or where we come from. All of that just melts away because we're two people connecting and sharing on something that is meaningful for us.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So just before we end off, maybe you can just tell me a little bit about where's Touws River now. So I think we ran the groups in 2022, 2023. So just a bit of feedback. It's now 2 years later. And what's happening, or 3 years later, what's happening in Touws River at the moment?
So we are conducting on their request, a short program on therapeutic skills, or call it emotional support skills, for a group of more thaners. And it's also a name that they adopted for themselves, because suddenly they experienced that the community are coming to some of them for, call it counseling or some emotional support. It's as if it was natural that people start to come to some of the participants who went through our process, which is a beautiful, very nice to experience. And then the municipality has recently conducted a meeting on social cohesion in Touws River. And the name of More Than has been named in that atmosphere, or meeting more than once by more than one person. And yes, so the municipality is now at a point where they want to address social cohesion within Touws River, within the municipal area. So the timing, synchronicity, is again it's amazing. And some of our more thaners are now in that group, thinking about and talking about how to take it further in Touws River.
So again, speaking to the sustainability, we are five years down the line, and
Yes.
from that, people have identified being more than as, and there must have been enough change for members of the community to be coming to them. So it's again a sustained a change that has happened.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so good to hear.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
And I think back to the whole question around entrepreneurship. Again, that's what we thought would be the answer, and the as
Exactly.
part, and not necessarily, yeah, but the community and the members of the group thought something else. It was on a more personal level, yeah, just to add.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is also growing, that things are still happening um,
Hmm.
in that community,
It
despite not
and
being entrepreneurial, is what I mean. Yeah.
yes, and also it's a spillover because there's an invitation to go to the Durance because of a breakthrough event that the more than participants in Touws River themselves organized last year, and they invited everyone that they know to a celebration of what more than means to them.
Mm.
And they invited the poorest of the poor in their community to sit in front at the front tables, and they, as more thaners, served those poorest of the poor in that. And then they also invited the police forum. There was a captain from Paul that went through, and we subsequently had an invitation to propose, put in a proposal for working with convicts and reconciliation with their families,
Mm.
which is still on the table there. So from that, there's this ripple effect going to other communities also.
Sure. So thank you very much
Mm.
for coming to share the findings of the research. So it hasn't been published yet, but it has been approved. So the moment that it's published, we will disseminate it. And the YouTube episode will then feature with that as well. Yeah, so any final last words from you, Louise?
Sure, yeah. Again, it was a great experience being part
Mm.
of it, despite maybe some resistance with what we need to do. But yeah, it's just a confirmation every time you hear from people who did a more than group that it has been life-changing, and as you said, the impact goes further than just the person.
Hmm.
So yeah, and again, using techniques from the group process and techniques from Imago,
Hmm.
and putting it all together, it's been great. Yeah, thank you so
Mm.
much.
Pleasure. Last words from you, Andri?
Not much, just an invitation to join the More Than movement. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us, and it's a
It's a
privilege.
pleasure. And those that want to take up the invitation, please go and have a look at the More Than website. There's contact details there, and I'm sure that Andre or somebody else will get back to you and explains it in more detail. For the OTGrow viewers, thank you very much for joining us today. And maybe this also kind of opens your eyes not to the typical interactive group model in the mental health space, but also all the other options that open up for us in terms of building social cohesion in our communities.
Mm.
So until our next episode, happy facilitating.